Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to the greatest business podcast in the world, thebosspodcast.com. I'm your host, Frederick Douglass Bussey, along with my co-host, Mr. Richard Pierce. Together we are the two most handsome guys in business podcasting. It's been verified. Independent surveys have been conducted. We have found it to be true. Look, we're not bragging about it. This is just what the people tell us. So we're glad to be here with you today. We have a great topic, one of my favorite topics to talk about in all of business and everything. One that not enough people talk about, and I can't wait to get into it. But before I do that, Richard, how are you today?
Well, as you said, it's an unfair advantage. We're the best looking guys in business. So just want to tell everybody, if everybody wonders why we're so successful, that's the reason why. So everybody has to have that we call it unfair advantage, quote unquote.
That's right.
So
That's right.
no, life is good. Just had some client meetings, and hearing their successes really inspires me, motivates the team. So we're here to share some of those items with you, because again, business ownership is a very lonely journey. Even when you have employees, you could have a partner, could have another half, whatever that may be, friends and family. Yet there's a lot of decisions you have to make daily that could make or break your business. And that's what we're here, right? And that's what we're here for, is to share some proven frameworks / recipes with you for business. And we work with people. We had a couple of people last week were asking, do we work with individuals one-on-one? Yes, we are for hire. I know sometimes you have to state the obvious, but we had some people asking us that. And there's a lot of great information that you can implement and execute on not only this show, but previous shows that you can go listen to as well. So again, we're here. And as you said, Frederick, this is a topic that is often overlooked, yet we're here to give you some digestible, bite-sized pieces in business that you can use today and make your business better today than it was yesterday. Because that's the key, is that consistent improvement compounded over time will make the biggest difference. And again, it's that consistency to that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to welcome those who are watching us live. And if you're watching us on replay, you can do the same thing, which is to drop us a comment. Let us know where you're watching it from. If you have a question, we love to take questions and handle things in real time. That's not too heavy a lift for either of us. That makes the game fun. We want to make sure it's extremely relevant to where you are. And for those of you who are watching this on replay, drop a hashtag replay. Let us know. Doesn't matter. We're happy to jump into the comments. As well as you can reach out to us on bosspodcast.com or gatewaybusiness.com to let us know a little bit more about what you're up to. We've got a free business tool that we're happy to mail out to you at no cost or obligation to you. Rich is putting a copy of it on the screen, which gives us a little bit of a structure about how you can form the foundation for scaling and growing your business above and beyond everything that you've been thinking was possible before. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how to create those possibilities as well. Richard, before we jump into the topic, who is this podcast for, so people understand, right? Who is it for and who is it not for?
Great question. So it's for, there's multiple items to qualify for this podcast. Number one, you must be a business owner. You must be a business owner. So a business owner, you could have 0 employees or you could have 20 employees. Or even more. So our ideal sweet spot is a business owner between 5 and 25 employees. That's one criteria. Another criteria is your family must be your number one priority. So your family is more important than everything else put together. That's another must-have criteria. Another criteria that who is this for is someone that is not happy with status quo in their business. So that's the key. Who is it not for? People that are happy with the status of your business. If you're happy with the way your business is going, probably best to go to a different podcast. um, if your family is not your number one priority, it's not a match for you. And if you think you have all the answers, this is not a podcast for you. So that's kind of a mixture of who it's for and who it's not for. The main focus is, again, people that know they need some specific knowledge to put the work in, grow their business, and build a business where you eventually have the option to sell, and then you can
Mhm.
sell your business when you want to and create some generational wealth. So again, there's quite a bit there to digest, but that gives people sort of a taste of who this podcast is for and who it's not for also.
I love it. I love it. And you speak about transforming your business. We talked about possibilities. Today's topic is game changer questions that will transform your business. First of all, you talked about the fact that people who think they have all the answers, right?
Yes.
And one of the things I find fascinating is how many times we ask a question that we think we know the answer to and don't realize that a lot of times we're asking the wrong question. So before we talk about the game changer questions, I want to ask you, what are some of the wrong questions that business owners consistently ask themselves over and over again?
Yes. So many things that will ask themselves or make statements. It could go either direction. So, for
Mhm.
example, they could say that it's hard to hire good people.
Mhm.
They could say that people now don't have the work ethic that they had in the past.
Mhm.
They could say the economy's changing, something of that nature. So they've kind of had some limiting beliefs as they operate their business. They may
Mhm.
think, well, in this industry, whatever that industry is, they will think, oh, in this industry, it exists a certain way. Or in
Mhm.
a certain region, certain market of the country, they could have beliefs in having those conversations with themselves.
Right.
And that's, again, that's a statement, but then with that statement, then they limit themselves to asking questions that will be a game changer. So um,
Mhm.
that's where it first ties into place, is realizing, are you having biases? Do you have filters that, if you had a tool, which again, there's going to be a quiz as always, we're going to share very specific situations and how to change first the conversation in yourself, and then using very structured questions on how to get a better outcome with the stakeholders in your business, be it a partner you have, be it an employee, be a vendor, a customer, ever who that stakeholder is, just to use it with structure so you can get better results faster.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Uh, we make a lot of assumptions as human beings, right? There's a thing called confirmation bias. And what I find is that a lot of clients, we approach situations believing that we already know the answer to the questions. And we can conduct our businesses, and people even live their lives like this. They conduct their businesses based on these assumptions. And therefore, Einstein's definition of insanity is continuing to do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And then we're frustrated when we bump our heads against a wall or against a ceiling and we can't figure out why it keeps happening. And we don't really step back and look at the fact that, you know what? Maybe I have the wrong assumption based on beliefs, based on the way I was conditioned, being raised, whatever the case may be. And that's what's keeping me in this same pattern, this same loop of not being able to grow, of getting the same results over and over and over again. So how is it that we're able to use game changer questions to break this pattern, to break this loop?
So, for example, when you said, which is huge, the confirmation bias, again, that's pure genius to be aware of that. So, I'll give you an example of confirmation bias. So let's say you're in a certain industry, whatever it could be any industry,
Mm-hmm.
and you think like it's April 9th today, 2024. So if you think
Mhm.
that every April it's slow in my business, and then you talk to others in the same industry that also said, yeah, every April it's slow. That's
Mhm.
confirmation bias. The people that are in the same industry are telling you, yep, every April is slow. So what happens? You stop doing the basics, the culture, you talk to people in the culture, and it's like, yep, every April it's slow. Well, it's April 9th. The month is not over yet. And right, but you but again, you're talking to others in the industry, you're talking to your employees, you're talking to your vendors, then you tell your customers,
Mhm.
well, every April it's slow. And they're like, yeah, you're right. I was going to spend money with you, but you say it's slow. Maybe I'll come back in May. So,
You're right. Right.
right. And the confirmation bias, I'm sure it started in caveman time when the saber-toothed tiger attacked somebody, and then they're like, well, that's, everything that moves is bad for you. And then they figured out that you could raise livestock or have them as pets or something of that nature, right? So
Right.
um,
Right.
I think it's huge to really be aware when that bias is like a filter. And if the
Mhm.
filter is a bottleneck where you can't reach your desired outcomes in your business, that's when you've got to re-examine that bias. Like the world, they thought the world was flat for what, 4,000 years or something. And
Mhm.
then this guy named Christopher Columbus, he sails to America and they figure out that the world's not flat anymore. So, uh,
Mhm.
but yeah, I think that's very smart what you said there. You got to be aware of those biases, and then that's where you start asking yourself, start structuring questions so that you can overcome all of those biases. That's the key. That's the key. Don't let those filters, then they may be decades old. You may have had them since a kid, or if you've been in whatever industry you're in, if it doesn't matter if it's restaurant, skilled trades, manufacturing, transportation, every industry, there's biases that are common
Mhm.
in that industry. And you have to change your mindset. Because, like you said, if you don't, then our good old Uncle Albert Einstein, the definition of insanity happens, right? And we don't want to keep
Right.
doing the same things over and over, expecting different results, because that would drive anybody crazy. So,
Yeah.
great point there.
Yeah. I agree. I love that because our brains, we know that our brains are meaning making machines. And so when we don't understand something, we start looking for patterns in certain places to help us make sense of what's going on, right? And so those patterns can be about ourselves, it can be about the industry, it can be about our customers, whatever the case may be. But we'll create this story about these, and then we will, through our confirmation bias, continually try and find ways to reinforce that. And Einstein, Uncle Albert, he had another great saying, which I love, which is that um, no problem can be solved by the same mind that created it. And how that relates to our topic today is that the beauty of game changer questions is that it actually changes our minds so that we are in a different position, being able to see the problem from a different perspective, or actually to understand it in a completely different way. As you say, turn it into a solvable problem. And that is where the possibilities start to come from. And so I'm excited to dive into this. Let's talk about how we can start to construct or see the way that we ask questions in a different way, and start to look at some of those questions are, so that we can create not just different outcomes, but optimal outcomes for our business.
Yes. So with this, we're going to give away some secrets. So there's air quotes. If you're watching us on YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn, or at bosspodcast.com, you'll see the air quotes. But so these are secrets. Don't tell your competition. These are absolute game changers. So
Yeah.
it starts with the answer is in the question. The answer is in the question.
Yeah.
So we'll break that down. So what that is, it's the structure of your question gives you your desired outcome. The
Mhm.
structure of your question gives you your desired outcome. Then I'm going to take that even further. I'm going to give you some very specific business challenges that business owners have, and I'm going to show you how to structure very specifically the question to give you your desired outcome.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with, if you have a vendor. Let's say you're a business and you have a vendor, and let's make this, you have a construction company and you need 1,000 pounds of rock delivered Wednesday at noon on a job site. And the vendor the week before said, yeah, we'll have that 1,000 pounds of rock delivered to you. Okay. By noon on Tuesday. And then noon on Monday, the day before, the vendor calls you and, well, we can't deliver the rock. So this is a challenge, right? This is a challenge. So what we do is we go back and we look at the tool. The answer is in the question. It's how you It's how you structure the question to give you your desired outcome. So we'll break it down. Your desired outcome is to get that rock there by noon on Tuesday. So when your vendor says we can't have the rock by noon on Tuesday, most of the common reaction would be, why? You said you could. You promised me. You start putting this wall up. You start you start losing control of the chaos.
Right.
Yet you want to optimize the chaos, so you ask them. I'm kind of curious. Well, why? What's the specific reason why you can't get the rock here by noon on Tuesday? And they say, we have 4 delivery drivers, and one of them called in sick. Okay. Do you have the rock? So you see, we start breaking this down, compartmentalizing it. Do you have the rock in your quarry? Let's say you're buying this from a quarry. So they say, yeah, we have the rock at our quarry. We just don't have enough drivers to deliver it to you. See, you see where you're starting. The answer's in the question. So then you say, so these drivers are working for your company. Do you have any other companies that could make a delivery to me? So you see, your this is part of optimizing that chaos. You start breaking that down by asking questions.
Right.
So you start asking, do you have any other companies that you work with that make delivery of that same material? And they'll say, well, now that you mention it, we actually do. We have ABC Hauling that can deliver it. Bingo. You see? Right. And let's say, so that's one solution. Again, the answer's in the question. So then another, so let's say he says, oh, we don't have any of those. Okay. So then you break it down even more. Do you have any customers that pick up their own rock? Do you have any customers that pick up their own rock? And they can say, well, actually, since you asked that, we actually do. We have, reliable landscaping. They pick up the rock all the time. So you see where you start by what your mindset is, and then you start developing solutions based on that question. And then you say, well, reliable landscaping picks up their own rock. Could you share their number with me? And I'm going to call them and see if they could deliver rock to me. So you see how you start breaking these down. It could even be a little more dynamic. One of them could be, can we pick the rock up? Well, sure, you can pick it up. We've got plenty of it. Okay. Yeah. And so then do you go and rent a dump trailer to pick the rock up? Do you, so again, you've got to constantly have this in your mind with structuring that. Find out, ask yourself, what's your desired outcome? Your desired outcome is to get that rock there, that 1,000 pounds of gravel by noon on Tuesday. Right. So then you start asking questions all the way around that. Just like when you go to the doctor, what do? CT scan, MRI, ultrasound, blood work, X-ray. I mean, they can just, look at everything from so many different angles. Right. So that's one example. Let's say it's a vendor, and we use the vendor that can't get the gravel there, the 1,000 pounds of gravel by a specific time. So let's use another one. So let's say you have a a employee, this is a great one. So let's say you have an employee that is not performing as an A plus plus player. And let's say, for example, this person works the front desk. You've got a medical office or a retail establishment, something where the person's actually answering the phone when customers or patients call in.
Mm-hmm.
And your optimal situation is they answer the phone in one ring. We'll use this example, right? So they answer the phone in one ring, but that's not happening. Customers or patients are calling, well, I called and no one answered, or it rang and no one answered. So then you have to, right? So you have to have that conversation with the employee. So the wrong way to do it, and I'll tell you the wrong way that happens quite a bit, is you tell that employee, you must answer that phone on the first ring. And the employee says, yeah, I'm trying, I'm busy. And then you do that over and over. And again, like our Uncle Albert Einstein, definition of insanity, right? You keep telling that person, then you tell them, well, you're going to be fired. We're going to dock your pay, or you change their position. Definition of insanity all the time, right?
Right.
So what you do, again, you go back and you think the answer's in the question. What is my desired outcome? My desired outcome, let's just use the name Cindy. I'll just use this name, Cindy. Cindy's answering the phone. My desired outcome is to get Cindy to answer the phone on the first ring so she can talk to our patients.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you ask Cindy, say, Cindy, I was sort of curious. Our mission here is to answer the phone on the first ring to talk to patients. How do we do that, Cindy? How do we get that to happen? What's happening that we can't answer the phone on the first ring? And Cindy, right? And Cindy could say something like, well, I'm at the front desk and patients come in and they want to change their schedule, or they're paying, an invoice. So when I'm talking to them, and especially some of the patients just want to talk, and that keeps me away from answering the phone.
Mm-hmm.
So you see how we break it down. So everybody, and again, put any questions or comments in the chat. If you're on Facebook or LinkedIn, it all feeds our podcast here. We're glad to answer them. So Cindy says that customers come in, they're paying an invoice, or they're waiting for their appointment, and they're talking, and that Cindy feels rude because she doesn't want to stop talking to that patient or customer while the phone's ringing.
Right.
So now, so you see, now we've at least pinpointed. We've pinpointed why this is happening. What's this bottleneck? What's that? Mm-hmm. So then we share with Cindy, say, okay, it's okay, but when you're at the front desk, just tell, if someone's talking about the weather or whatever else is going on, just say, hey, Mrs. Henderson, I'd be glad to talk with you. Hold on, I need to answer the phone.
Mm-hmm.
So, right, through optimal leadership, you've guided Cindy on how to, not be rude to Mrs. Henderson that wants to talk while she's waiting for her dental appointment. And right. And you've got her realizing that she can say, oh, hold on, Mrs. Henderson. That sounds great. You've got your favorite cookie recipe for your grandkids, which again, is part of customer experience. You want to talk to them and, build that relationship, but you can't have them, but you can't have them stop the whole operation. They don't know, they don't realize they're doing it, because in some offices now, the phones blink, or they're real low, or they think someone else is going to answer them, as the customers think that. So, so that way, Cindy, you've guided her and given her a framework on how to do both positions very effectively. And right. So that's an example there. That's an example with an employee is you've asked a question, that narrows down why they're not accomplishing what the desired outcome is. And then you share with them, like in that specific example, here's how you handle two customers at once.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so that's a very specific one. And I'll give one more too. I'm thinking one more. So let's say it's with a a customer. I'll give this example as a customer. So
Mhm.
let's say with a customer, if I'll use this example, let's say you're an automotive repair shop,
Right.
and someone calls and they're an existing customer and they need a brake work done on their car, and
Mhm.
you ask them if they, how does Thursday work for you to bring your car in? And if they
Right.
say, right, and if they say, well, Thursday doesn't work for me,
Mhm.
what you want to do is you want to find out why Thursday doesn't work.
Hmm.
So, right. So, for example, you want to find out, well, I'm kind of curious, what's the challenge with Thursday? Maybe they
Mhm.
say, well, I don't have a ride back home. Well, does your automotive repair shop, does it offer a shuttle service? Does it,
Mhm.
right? Does it offer a free loaner car? Because if you offered them, say, well, we could take you back home and then come pick you up when your car's done. So
Mhm.
you see again the answers in that in the question by asking
Right.
them what's the challenge, and all these have the same pattern. We're looking for what's the bottleneck constraint that is stopping both parties from reaching their desired outcomes, and then you're
Right.
offering solutions, right? You're offering solutions to what that bottleneck is, and that's better for the customer, it's better for the business, you get a better experience for the customer, the business becomes more efficient. So that's just like what we went through, three different examples there.
Mhm. Yeah.
So yeah, so that would be some things to focus on. What would be some other scenarios that would be some challenges for business owners, Frederick, would you say?
Well, so I'll tell you what came up for me when you were saying that, right? One of the things that really hurts us when it comes to this type of thinking is that we allow ourselves to be pigeonholed by other people's limitations, right?
Well said.
So so let's go back to your first example about the construction company that needs the rocks delivered, right? So the guy says, I can't deliver the rocks on Tuesday at noon, right? And so
Yes.
you broke down very specifically how you can break down that question to get more information. One of the things that can happen is we get locked into Tuesday at noon being the only time it can be delivered. We get locked into the fact that they're saying they can't do this thing at this particular time, therefore it can't get done at all, right? Could it be done sooner? He's calling you on Monday. Well, could you deliver it today?
Great.
What are the other possibilities? And I love how you frame that. The question, the answer is in the question, right? I believe I heard you say it before. One time you said the question is pregnant with the answer, right? And so when you think about that, that means that the answer is inside waiting to be born. All we have to do is find the right way to deliver it. And so the question itself, the way we structure it, allows us to create those possibilities. So when we step back from that, one question that I love to think of is just in general, right? A way of reframing how you think about your business in general. Is like, where am I allowing myself to be pigeonholed by this person's thinking, right? If I was the person I owned a quarry, right? I imagine that the person who was calling and living the message had been told by their boss that, hey, we need to call so and so construction and tell them we can't deliver that rock by noon on Tuesday, right? But had their boss said, hey, I need you to call from them and ask them, how could we possibly deliver this rock in another way? Or is there another possibility? Are they open in their time frame? Is there some other possibility, right? So now the rock quarry is actually creating the possibilities on their end. What does that do? That makes them a much more valuable tool versus saying we can't get it done, so you're going to have to go find somebody else. They lose out on their business now, and in the future, the construction company is saying, I need to find an alternative because the last time these guys couldn't handle my business the way I needed it to be handled. And so when we allow ourselves to get pigeonholed by other people's thinking, we actually feed into the limitations, and that's why we keep hitting that brick wall time and time again. because we're actually limited by our thinking instead of opening the door to other possibilities. And the other thing I'll say is that you talked about the employee who's answering the phone. When we're thinking about the optimal outcome, a lot of times we also get pigeonholed into thinking about this particular task instead of thinking about the outcome that this task creates for us, right? So answering the phone on the first ring is not arbitrary, right? It's not because if the world will blow up if we answer the phone on the second ring. It's that we want to optimize the customer experience for everyone that is a potential client or a client of the company. So how do we do that? Optimizing that experience means, okay, I optimize it for the person that's standing in front of me in the waiting room, as well as for the person on the phone. And what you want to do is you want to open up your employees' minds so they're thinking on a different level. And what this does for you is that instead of you having to worry about the phones being answered and you spending all your time monitoring and listening to make sure the phone isn't ringing twice, what you're doing is you're allowing your employee to become a better manager of their environment and a better leader in their environment. You're inspiring them versus trying to control their behavior. And what does that do? That makes your business less owner dependent. You don't have to be the one that has to control every outcome. And so simply by finding ways to structure the question differently, to focus their mind on all the possibilities will allow them to be able to perform at a higher level. They don't feel restricted or that you're always looking over their shoulder or that they're under high stress because the phone rang twice or three times. They're going to get fired now and their mind starts wandering down this whole other path. You created a safer, more conducive environment for success. You're empowering them to be more successful instead of defining failure in such a finite way that there's no way for them to win. What do you think about that, Richard?
Yeah, what you said is very smart. The first one was don't let someone else's limiting belief control what your results are. So like in the quarry, like with the construction company buying from the vendor the quarry, and the quarry employee says, well, we can't get the rock there by noon on Tuesday. And again, if the quarry employee was trained better, had better frameworks, they would say, can we deliver it Monday at 3:00? Could we deliver it before? Could we deliver it Monday at 8:00? They would again think outside the box. Can they hire a different company to deliver it? An independent, maybe a one-time or occasional item. So, right. So that's again on both sides, not only the construction company owner, yet also the employee or the owner of the quarry training their employees better. Just that optimal leadership, getting them to think about what's the result that the customer's looking for, and also the customer not being limited by just the thinking of the vendor as well. And so I think there's a lot of insight there. I think that's the biggest thing is just, again, that's part of the continuous changing in very specific situations so that the company, as you said, is less owner dependent, because that's what we want to do when we work with clients is look at where the owner dependency is, and then how do we put that framework in place, or it can be looked at as an SOP, standard operating procedure. What's that recipe? Because if that quarry, for example, can't deliver by noon on Tuesday, that happens multiple times a week, possibly, maybe a day, depending on how big that vendor is. And I'm just laughing because I've had some of those experiences in business, and we all have as business owners, where the vendor, we can't do that, or something changed, and then you just have to, again, get practice. Just practice it in the next. I would challenge somebody too, any of our audience, to practice this. And again, it's April 9th, 2024. Practice this at any time. If it's today, if it's next week, any time in April when you're listening to this podcast. And then reach out to us with what happened. What did you solve? And you can reach us again on either bosspodcast.com or gatewaybusiness.com. You can shoot us an email, you can text us, and share with us, because that's what we live for, is just hearing the results. It's an exhilaration of victory. It's almost like having kids on the way when you have, everybody's that's had kids or even watched kids, and they achieve something that they didn't think was possible.
Yeah.
They get that look, right? They get that look in their eye, and they're like, "Wow, look what I accomplished," and
Hmm.
that's inspirational. So it will really inspire us if you reach out, or if you even have a challenge and you don't know how to structure that question, reach out to us. We will structure the question for you so that you can have that tool in use. And again, we've been doing this forever, working with business owners. I started in 2005. We've worked with over 900 business owners. So this is something that we do every day. And again, if you have a specific challenge that you don't know how to structure the question or what all those steps are, reach out to us. We'll be inspired and honored to help you with any of those challenges. And
Yeah. Yeah.
with that, Frederick, what are some other challenges that you think or we've seen business owners run into, so we could kind of craft some questions for
Um, I'll give you an example and a question that I have discovered that I think is really, really powerful. One of them we see a lot of times is where we work with construction companies, and one of the things that they have to do is they put in bids, right? When they come to us, they're in the process of putting in bids. And so one of the things that we work with our clients on is how to free themselves from that process, right? So that instead of having to go out and compete for bids, they become the only source or the only provider for that project in the minds of their clients or their customers. And one of the challenges that goes along with that is believing that they can't charge more for their services, right? And ideally, you would like to be able to make as much money as possible, make as much profit margin as possible. And sometimes and when you're in a competitive space, you actually end up bidding against yourself, right? And so one of the questions that I found is really, really powerful is asking the clients, all right, how many bids that you won in previous years do you believe that you would have lost if you had charged $1 more? And invariably they will say, well, none. Right. So $1 didn't make the difference. All right. So how about $5? No, $5 probably wouldn't have made that much difference. All right. How about $100? No, $100 probably. Okay. How about $1,000? Right. And so invariably, you're able to raise that threshold enough to where you can see where that price tension is. And what that does is it creates a possibility. So instead of saying, I can't make more money on these bids, or I can't make more profit or more even revenue, you're able to say, okay, how much more would I have been able to charge and still win these bids on average, right? And that becomes the new possibility for you to be able to raise every bid, right? So even by not doing anything different, you're able to figure out what those possibilities are by structuring the question in such a way that reveals the possibilities. So that's one that comes to mind for me.
No, that's a great one, because again, that's where our own beliefs, we look at it, and especially in a bidding process, which again, we could do a whole separate show on bids or not giving bids, but we'll give you a little insight today. So, but like you said, that's the first question you should ask yourself. If you're giving, and a bid could be formal, it could be an RFP, or it could be informal, could be verbal. But would that customer have paid $1 more? 99% of the time, yes, right? And then as you said, Frederick, would they have paid $5 more? Would it have paid 100? And again, it depends on the size of the project. And we're just talking construction, but again, this could be anything whatsoever. Landscaping, auto repair, or catering at a restaurant, a beauty salon. If you're a beauty salon and you do, and I'm not a beauty expert, but surprise, but whatever that may be, where you charged, percentages more, would they pay? So with that, I'll give you some numbers to think about back to when you ask yourself that question: would the customer pay more? So the first thing you have to look at is a person's decision is 12% money alone and 88% other factors. 12% money alone and 88% other factors. So I
Right.
want to ask, right? So let's ask the audience. The car you bought, or the house that you bought, or the last major purchase for your business, could you have bought something that cost less money? Whatever that is, right? Could you have bought something that cost less money? 98% of the time, you could have bought something that cost less money. The reason you
Right.
didn't, right? The reason you didn't is because there were other factors involved. You know,
Right.
let's use a construction company. You know, I needed a truck that could tow a bobcat. I needed a dump trailer that could haul 30,000 pounds. If you're a restaurant, you needed tables and chairs that were more durable. That's why, or they set a certain ambiance within the restaurant. So I couldn't have bought the ones that cost less. I mean, the list is endless here, right? So
Right.
what you have to think about there is, again, first, as we said in the previous scenarios, don't have that bias in your own head that it's all about prices. You never want to sell, and this is worth writing down. I know it's going to be a quiz here. So here's going to be the quiz: is you never sell the way you buy. You never sell the way you buy. So if you're frugal on some items, you have to realize you're not frugal on every item that you purchase for your business or even personally. And the same thing, right? The same thing. Your ideal customers are not frugal when it comes to spending money with you. So let's tie this in. I'm going to give you some very specific, and again, don't share this with your competition, whatever you do. These are, as we said it in the title of the show, these are game changer questions for your business. You use these, they're tools you'll use forever. So let's use, for example, let's say it's a bid. And again, it could be a formal bid where you have to do it in writing, or it could be informal where you just verbally give it to somebody. So you have to ask them, your prospect, what are some of the most important aspects of, let's say you're a construction company and you're doing a redo their kitchen, for example. What are some most important aspects? Is it the lowest bid on the kitchen, or getting the highest quality in the shortest amount of time? We can do this kitchen. You're going to be on vacation for a week. We can have this kitchen. Again, this takes a lot of work. I know people are going to say, you can't do this. I've seen it done. We can do this kitchen from start to finish in 11 days. So instead of disrupting your house, you take an extended vacation or you get an Airbnb close by, whatever it may be, and we'll have this kitchen from start to finish completely done in 11 days. Is that worth more money than the lowest bidder that keeps your house in disarray for 3 weeks or 6 weeks? So you see that's a question when you're working to find out if that customer is ideal for you. Do they want the lowest price? Do they want the highest quality? Are there other factors like timing involved that, like the kitchen, for example, or if it's let's use auto repair. There may be a shop that costs less money, but maybe they don't use the highest grade parts, right? Possibly they're going to keep your car longer. So you ask them, there's another shop that can do it for less money. They can do the brake work for less money, but do they use top quality OEM parts? Right. And again, you start breaking it down, whatever that is, what is important to your customer, and find out what's the items that are important besides just money itself. What are some of the factors that they work in their equation? And this is where the answer is in the question. Mr. and Mrs. Prospect, what are the top 2 or 3 items that are important to you? And again, with that 12%, there's 12% of the population, price is everything. And what they could be buying, they want the lowest priced truck, the lowest priced whatever. That 12% is not for a medium or small size business. They
Right.
margins are there. The margins are either don't exist or they're so low, and those lower price shopping people will be 100% of your headache. They'll be 1% of your business, right? And they'll be 100% of your headache. So, and we've all had them as businesses, right? The people that want the deal become the biggest headache. So,
Yeah.
and you'll know that by asking them. If they say, yeah, price is everything, I'm buying whatever it is, auto repair, construction, I want the cheapest dentist, I want the lowest price beauty salon, I'm buying manufacturing, and I want the lowest shipping or the lowest whatever your business is. You're a bakery and somebody wants the cheapest bakery products in the world. They're going to be a headache. Guarantee it. Write it down. Tell them Richard said this. Quote me. Whatever you do. But again, these are some filters that you use by structuring those questions, and it filters out. I think you said it a couple shows ago or 2 or 3 shows ago, Fredrick. You want to create a process to keep out the customers that you don't want, which is worth repeating. So we'll give Fredrick credit for that, because that's so true. Part of the customer acquisition process is to keep out your non-ideal clients. So I think that's something worth looking at when you're a business owner, asking yourself, what process do we have? We have a process for acquiring clients. We have a process for doing business. But what do we do? What is our protection to keep away the customers that aren't ideal for us?
I love that.
Makes you think, right? Makes you think.
You're creating an insurance policy against bad clients.
Yes, that would be a way to look at it. You're creating insurance, and think about it. What does an insurance company do? They ask you a whole list of questions. If it's commercial, business, personal, it doesn't matter. You got any previous claims? Do you how many miles do you have? All these items they ask you. What's the zip code of your business? How many cars are in the fleet? They're asking all these questions. So it's similar to an insurance company. You're doing the same thing in effect with your business. You're creating that policy to filter out clients that you don't want. And if they're price shopping, it cannot be said enough. The people that want the lowest price, they're the 12% of the population you do not want, no matter what. So go ahead.
And well, yeah, I mean, I know we're getting close to time, but one of the things that you said that I think should definitely be emphasized, because it's the reason why it's a game changer, this entire framework of asking questions that are pregnant with the answer, right? Structuring questions that create greater outcomes, optimal outcomes, is because a lot of times, and this kind of loops back to what we were saying earlier about the bottleneck that we create with our own limitations or accepting limitations from other people. When you're talking here about filtering out the clients, there's an assumption that 99% of business owners make, which is that I just have to accept the customers that are going to pay me money. And so because of that, they don't think I can choose my customers, right? I can choose the clients that I want. And by structuring questions in a certain way to filter out the non-ideal clients, you actually get to pick the ones that are the best, that are going to pay you the most, and are going to stay with you the longest. And when you do that, you build a business that can scale exponentially. You can multiply your profits year over year, month over month, week over week. It takes time to get there, but it starts with the foundation of a powerful question. And so I think being able to liberate yourself from the thinking that you had before starts with asking yourself, where am I being buttonholed or pigeonholed, right? Where is my thinking actually thinking too small, too narrow? And where could it be thinking more narrow that actually opens up more possibilities? So by choosing a very particular type of client, you actually open up more possibilities for revenue and profit instead of just accepting everyone. So you become more, I'll say this word specifically, discriminating in who you want to work with, but not based on all these other broad factors, but on a very specific way of figuring out who your ideal client is, who you can offer the most value to, how you can be more generous to people that are more, I don't want to say deserving, but that qualify at a higher level, right? That want greater outcomes, right? Because what we're all out to do with our businesses is to create these powerful outcomes. And that's just, it's a way to inspire your team. It's a way to create a more expansive life. And it's a way to build a more sustainable business, because you're not pigeonholed by the limitations that everyone else has about their beliefs about the industry, the world, the season, politics, all these other things that tend to drag you down and just put you in this tiny little box in your mind. What would your thoughts on that, Richard, as we get ready to wrap up the show?
So the moment of clarity there is, like you said, Frederick, it's a question can be the foundation to scale your business. Because the scaling, again, is a mission that a lot of business owners have, and they don't realize why they're hitting a plateau. And one of the major ingredients is knowing the right questions to ask at the proper time. So, like you said, then it's not controlled. Nothing else controls it. The economy, the industry, nothing else controls it. And that's why we have businesses, is to control our own income, the hours we work, the people we work with, to, again, create that generational wealth and be an absolute game changer. So I think that's the main thing here. I want to, again, keep us on time here. So if anybody has any questions, anything specific, reach out to us, bosspodcast.com or gatewaybusiness.com. You can see some replays. You can email us or shoot us a text. We'll be glad. We have a very powerful business tool that we'll mail out to you. Just reach out to us, and we're here for you in this lonely journey to share with you proven frameworks to walk you every step of the journey so that you can reach your greatest business aspirations.
Yeah. I mean, you said it perfectly. And just put a bow on it, to liberate yourself from the belief that you have to do it alone, right? You don't have to walk this path alone. It's lonely, but also it's just a longer, harder slog. And why would you want to have to drag yourself through the mud when you could walk hand in hand through a clearer path to reach higher heights and to be able to get everything and more that you want out of your business and that you want to be able to create for yourself and your family? And so we're here to support you on that. If it's just on the podcast, keep tuning in. But if you want to go deeper, if you want to go faster, if you want to fly higher, then reach out to us and let's have a conversation about how we can support you. Any other thoughts, closing thoughts, Richard?
I would say the main thing is just never give up. Believe. I know there's sometimes some big challenges where you can't see the forest for the trees, but we're here to show you the bigger picture, get in the trenches with you, and walk you through every step to just know that somebody's on your side with that journey of business. Yeah,
absolutely. Look, if you don't have the belief, you can borrow it from us. We got plenty to go around, right? And so we'll loan you what we have, and we won't even ask for it back. All right. So thanks for those who watched. Stop by for a second. Those of you who liked, comment, shared the show. If you're watching this on replay, drop a hashtag replay. Let us know what you thought, and if you have any questions as well. For my co-host, Richard Pierce, I am your host, Frederick Douglass Bussey. As always, ever forward. We'll see you next time.